Okay, we got ourselves a series, which I always expected. Am not particularly surprised by. That being said, how we got to this point, certainly interesting. And this game is going to give us a lot to dig into. Good, bad, good, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to get to all of it tonight, I'm sure. So final score 125-114 in Philly. Let me start here because I think it's the most appropriate place to start after the season, after the Knicks have gotten a lot of love the last several days for being just a very special group of guys, very special team. There is absolutely nothing, and I think actually Clyde said this towards the end of the broadcast. There's absolutely nothing for any Knick player, any Knick coach, or any Knick fan to hang their head about tonight. I thought that was a really, I went on my halftime Zoom for the Knicks Film School newsletter subscribers, and I said I thought you could argue it was their best played half of the season, and I meant that, and maybe sounded a little bit like hyperbole. I did not think that they could have done anything better defensively. I didn't think they could have. I thought the shot selection was excellent. And honestly, sitting here now after the game's over, look, people will always find things to criticize because that's just the nature of fandom. I don't know what you could criticize about them. Can't criticize their effort. I don't think you can criticize their game plan. I'm sure we're going to get people who are like, well, why didn't they start doubling Embiid? Okay. You can't double Joel Embiid on top of the three or above the 3-point arc. It's like, it's death. You will get. I'll save my thoughts on Embiid, but like I thought their game plan was great. Their effort was great for the most part. Their execution was really, really good. And we're going to talk about Jalen Brunson. I'll save that for a bit. But the most important thing from a Knicks fan perspective, 1,000%. Not even close. I don't even know what else would be in contention for this, but Jalen Brunson looked like Jalen Brunson tonight and had himself a game. Wasn't perfect. Couple late turnovers there, but I mean, what do you have? 38, 39 points, 13 assists. He was Jalen Brunson. He was the Jalen Brunson that is going to finish, whatever it is, 4th or 5th in MVP this year. But this is a game that in every way was about the guy who was going to win his second straight MVP until he got hurt early in January. And it's about him for some reasons that if you're an NBA fan, I mean, I know Knicks fans are not feeling this way tonight, but if you're an NBA fan, you just you're in awe because, you could count the amount of guys on 2 hands and a foot, maybe. Maybe you go on to the second foot, if that. I don't think you really need to. In NBA history, who can single-handedly take apart a team like Joel Embiid did, in particular in the third quarter, when that was just one of the great offensive displays of basketball that you'll ever see in any game, playoffs or otherwise. And that's why, again, like MVP was going to win another MVP, right up there with Nikola Jokic in terms of they're 1 and 1A in some order in terms of the most unguardable players in the league today. And I think there's a gap between the two of them and whoever you want to put third, probably Luka. But that's just because of the size. And Embiid is unguardable when he is 100% because of the inside-out game, but it's more like the intermediate game. He's not 100%. So why was he unguardable tonight? He's unguardable tonight because he shot the ball like fucking Steph Curry. And when Embiid is doing that, there is no guarding him. There is no guarding the Sixers, especially when Tyrese Maxey's out there, which he was. And Tyrese Maxey played off at Joel Embiid beautifully. Like you can't, if their shooters are going to hit shots, which a couple of their other guys hit shots too in that insane third quarter when they finished 9 of 12 from 3, like you just can't guard them. Like you're going to send a double when Joel Embiid's above the 3-point arc. Good luck with that. It's just you tip your cap. The reason that tonight is going to stick in the craw of every Knicks fan is the guy that did that, who, again, was on pace to win a second MVP and one of the most unstoppable scorers ever, should not have been in the game. And this is where it gets a little complicated because on one hand, there is no universe where if we're judging the thing by how it's supposed to be judged, which is correct call, not correct call, by the letter of the law in the NBA, if you are on the floor, if you are on the ground, on the court, and someone jumps and you try to literally pull them out of the air, that is like I'll put it this way. The league changed the way they officiate 3-pointers now to make putting your foot in landing area, someone's landing area, a flagrant foul, purely because when you disrupt somebody's ability to land safely, that is, I think, more than anything else that goes on in a basketball game, the thing that is the biggest risk of injury. The only way that you could increase the chances that you're going to injure someone other than sticking your foot under their feet when they land on a shot is to quite literally pull them out from the air. And the fact that it was a guy who just returned a few weeks ago from, and we'll talk about Mitch because Mitch now, his status looms incredibly large for the rest of the series. The fact that it was a guy who came back from surgery less than a month ago is like, it's insult to injury. So, but by any even generous reading of what is a flagrant 2, what should get someone ejected from the game, he should have been gone. When you add it to the other stuff, like Joel Embiid kneeing Isaiah Hartenstein, what looked like in the balls. I don't know where he exactly need him, but he need him somewhere. When you look at that, when you look at and there were a couple other plays that I'm not even forgetting because they pale in comparison, but we're still very bad. There's no universe where he should have been in the game. So what's complicated about this? Well, this is where, no one's going to want to hear this, but the Knicks won a game in Madison Square Garden on whatever it was, Monday night, that, again, if we are just following the letter of the law, playing by the rules, all of that stuff, should they have won that game? Technically, no. A foul was committed on Tyrese Maxey. Like we saw it. Jalen Brunson grabbed his jersey. That's the biggest one. I don't think Nurse ever called the timeout. I know the 2-minute report disputes that. It said Hart fouled Maxey once it was inbounded. I don't know about that. That's a kind of bang play. And this is where it gets into the gray area because, and this is for anybody yelling and screaming, Macri, those two things are not the same. Here's why you're right. Those are all instances of bang plays in the last 20 minutes of a game when throughout NBA history, historically, those are situations where the refs are going to be like, you know what, we're going to let the players decide this one. And if the Sixers couldn't figure out a way to get the goddamn ball inbounds and safely secure it to the point that they could just, hold on to it and get fouled and then they go up by 4 and that's the game. Well, you could argue that they deserve to lose the game. Again, by the letter of the law, did the referees mess up in that game? Yes, they did. Does it color how much I feel like I am justified in getting on here and ranting and raving and screaming about Joel Embiid being in the game and not being ejected? A little bit. Can reasonable minds dispute that? Absolutely. Can anyone dispute the fact that, unlike in the last 30 seconds of the game 2, the fact that the refs had a chance to look at this and make the correct call and they still made the incorrect call? They undercalled the foul. No one can dispute that what they did was far worse than anything that happened in the last 30 seconds of game 2. And that's why the two things are not on equal footing. Now, if we want to go in an additional step further, the calls that weren't made at the end of game 2, yes, I know the Sixers still had 2 opportunities to win, the Maxey layup attempt and the Embiid 3 at the end to tie the game, but that was at the very end. after Joel Embiid did not get ejected from this game, there was still a whole lot of game left for the Knicks to come up and come up with a big performance and steal the game regardless. And for a while, it looked like they were going to do that because, again, they played exquisitely. Big performances up and down the roster. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. I haven't mentioned Josh Hart's name once. That's a terrible job by me. He's the player of the game. For as great as Jalen Brunson was, Josh Hart was even better. And other guys, OG Anunoby got himself really in the mix, which was big. Like, they almost did it anyway. And it took that level of performance from Joel Embiid to prevent the Knicks from going up 3-0 in that series. Was there more the Knicks could have done? No, I don't think there was more the Knicks could have done. Is it absolutely frustrating that it happened by a guy who shouldn't have been in the game? I hope that's not something that we have to live with for an offseason if it helps determine the outcome of this series. Which, by the way, I apologize to anybody who thought the series was over. Like, the series was never over, even after game 2. And it's not over now. God knows. But, there was a lot of game left to play, and the Sixers did what they had to do on the court. They got a big assist from the refs. They got a massive assist from the refs. But it enabled them to have the chance to do what they needed to do to win the game, and they did what they needed to do to win the game. It shouldn't sit well with any Knicks fan. Like, truly, it should not sit well with any Knicks fan. Every Knicks fan should be annoyed. I'm annoyed. I know I'm not showing it right now because I'm trying to just stay composed. Everyone should be annoyed. It's the story of the game. And it won't get as much attention as it should in the national media. And I get that. That's fine. But it's the story of the game. As much as Embiid doing what he did in the game, scoring 50, taking over in the third quarter, as much as that's the story of the game, the fact that he was allowed to stay in the game is the story of the game. The only other thing that I want to say in regards to stuff that is not about the play on the court is this. Look, in terms of how Embiid gets officiated, Hardenstein picked up 2 quick fouls. Mitch picked up 2 quick fouls. Hardenstein came back in the first half, picked up another quick foul. Hardenstein came in the game late in the game, picked up 2 quick fouls. I'm not personally going to waste energy yelling and screaming about the way that Embiid in particular is officiated. And here's why. Hardenstein on the 5th foul was literally just standing there. He was just standing there. But because Joel Embiid is so big and he is so difficult to officiate, it's like, what if Shaq shot threes? That's as difficult as Shaq was to officiate. Joel Embiid's even harder because in terms of you need to give the shooter room and all of that sort of thing. Like, Hardenstein did nothing. He did nothing. And that's why all he could do was laugh. And he looks over at the Knicks bench, and the Knicks bench thought about challenging, and the Knicks bench decided against it. And do you know why they decided against it? Because they knew they'd lose the challenge. Because that is how Embiid has always been officiated. That's how he is always going to be officiated. I'm not, again, my personal choice, you can make a different choice. I'm not going to waste energy being apoplectic about it because this just is what it is. This is the rules, and it makes him impossible to guard. Like, part of the reason, again, he's one of the 15 to 20 most unguardable players in the history of the league when he's going good. The fact of how he's officiated and how he gets these calls, and he's skilled enough to get the calls, give him credit. But the fact that he gets these calls and hits the free throws, obviously, that's a massive part of it. It's a massive part of it. But it is a part that it's like, you either accept it or you don't. I've accepted it. Here's why I am annoyed. If you're going to call the game like that, and you're going to call those fouls committed against Joel Embiid, and this is what Tom Thibodeau always says, and I'd be shocked if he doesn't speak to this effect after the game. You have to call it evenly. And before Embiid got on his crazy roll and the Sixers got on their crazy roll, hitting everything from deep in the third quarter, there was what felt like a handful of calls because the Knicks came out, I thought, in the third, and I really thought they were like, okay, let's steal this series. I thought they had what it took to do it. And there were some borderline egregious non-calls. Steve Popper tweeted out that Brunson, the three-pointer that looked like an air ball just because Brunson was bad, like threw up a bad shot, was hit on the hand. DiVincenzo was fouled on a three. That wasn't called. Like, that is not equitable. And if you want to sit here and you want to tell me, well, leaving Joel in the game was a makeup for what happened at the end of the game too. So like, I don't think the two things are equal. But even if you want to argue that, well, how far are we going to go? How far are we going to go to ensure that this is a long series? Because the disparity between calls between the Sixers and the Knicks in particular in the beginning of that third quarter was extra. And I really thought that had that part of the game been called fairly, the Knicks aren't going into the fourth quarter down by 13. Maybe they're going into the fourth quarter down 6 or 7 or 8 or something. And then all of a sudden, when OG Anunoby hits back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter, it maybe doesn't cut the lead to 8. Maybe it cuts the lead to 3 or 4. And then you have a chance to really do something in that game. So, again, moral of the story, can't ask any more from the Knicks. Could have asked a lot more from the referees. And you tip your cap to an all-time great player having an all-time great performance, whether he should have been in the game or not. Joel Embiid did something that, like, you could. There are entire postseasons that go by where you will not see a performance to that level. It was that good. He's that special. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to say the last thing that I was going to say.